Yeah, Baruch Fleischman here, Boltzoi Shabbat. This is the very beginning. This is the first day of the week, because we're in Erev, the first day of the week, and today is the day of Chesed, and we're beginning Parshas Mishpatim. So the Matok points out that there are different girsas over here, the text reads slightly different. I'm not sure which part he means. And then he says like this, let's read the Zohar, and then we're going to read the notes on the Zohar before we begin the Matok B'Devash. And it says, Pasuk Rebbe Shimon v'Omer Rebbe Shimon began to speak in regards to this pasuk, to this Parsha. Mishpatim asher tasin levenechem. These are the laws that you should place before you. Targum ve'ilin dinaya the tzisader kademechun. So these are the dinim that you should lay out in order or order them before you. So now he says what this means. This is Rebbe Shimon speaking. Ilun inin sidurin de gilgulu. These are actually the orders of the Gilgulim. Dinim de nishmasim, they're dinim that are struck against the neshama, the hizdanu kol chad v'chad the kabel onshe, that every individual neshama, he says, is judged according to the appropriate punishment. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to read down below and let me try to keep it, let's see, in a way that we can all see this. It says, Kosev a Ramak. So now we're reading Rabbi Moshe Cardavero, one of the greatest of the all-time. So before we get into the real explanation of this Torah, it's important for us to explain what reincarnation, a reincarnated soul is. He says, Dasher on the Gilgal, who al beis panim. There are two different kind of ways you could look at a Gilgal, he says. Echad shuhu tzaddik. One is a person who is a tzaddik, has done really great things in his life. Behutzuk lahashlim eizeinim ishleimus nefesh, and he needs to be able to complete by his deeds eizeinim ishleimus nefesh, does some inyan that has to do with the perfection of his soul. Vein nefesh tzaddik. Hazeh mizgalgelis ela b'makom b'tuach. Excuse me. He says that this kind of tzaddik, a real tzaddik, who comes back to the world to ultimately get back into perfection of his soul, this tzaddik ain't b'makom b'tuach lo. So he only comes back into a situation, probably born into a learning family. Shioil v'lo yazik, that this situation in which he's born into will be easy for him or helpful for him to be able to accomplish what he needs to do, and it won't hurt him. But let's say this person who is a tzaddik, and he makes a terrible mistake one time, so he has to make a tikkun. And so therefore he comes after death, he comes back into the world. So that he can accomplish what he needs to do and correct that blemish, that's good. But let's say he does the same thing again a second time. It's not because of this that he would lose his soul. But what happens is, he's trying to say, he'll come back after death, in the second body, and also similarly to a third body, until the person becomes completely pure. Let me get us back again, because we're always running out of room. So he said, V'da, ki agilgul oynish kasha l'nefesh mikol onshim sheba'olim. He says that the most terrible pain that the soul can suffer, the punishment the soul can suffer of all of the punishments that we have in this world. And even going to hell, going to Gehenna, is not as bad as Gilgal. I like to think about this, that we're all probably Gilgulim. Because what happens when you go to Gehenna, it says that there the nefesh is bathed with fire. And a person comes out, that is this soul, we're talking about this nefesh, comes out of Gehenna tahora, v'nikia, pure and clean. And then after that, the person can enter into Gan Eden, al mechitzat tzaddikim, until the partitions of the walls of the rooms of the world of the tzaddikim. But you have to understand this, he says. Reincarnation, being reincarnated, is very hard for the soul, very, very hard. Because this is really, you could be compared to a certain person. That a person goes through all different kinds of labors, shanim, rabbles, for many years, and he takes all of his produce to another country which is very far away in order to make a profit. And when he comes to the door, hahi amrlo, if you're a fool, tevin ata machnis la'afrim, you're bringing straw to a place that has tons of sauce of straw. What you're bringing to us is not worth anything. So then what happens is, so this poor man who's trying to make a living by bringing his produce there, lachsor pam shenis, he has to go back a second time, mahalach kamashanim, and a trip that might take many years, biyadayim rekonius, with no money. He comes back with empty hands. L'moma ein biyada, there's nothing in his hands at all. Ad shuva al makomo, until the person comes back to his place. V'yakser v'yavicha b'bin ne'emalo, and then he has to come back and bring back what they told him in this faraway place that he needed to bring. B'shem merocha chaderek, so maybe because of all the traveling that he was doing along the way, yishkach shahashikacha mitzuya, he'll forget what he's really trying to accomplish. Because forgetting is something that is around. So he says, and I think that, what I hear from this is that he's talking about my soul, and my soul really, really has to struggle. So he said, so this is actually how the dinim work on a person's soul. Not more, not less. The person comes into this world, and he dwells in this world 70 years. And so he toils in all the different things that he has to overcome. And ultimately he winds up in the after death. He died. So he comes to the gates of heaven, and the shomrim there, they said to him, after the hikanis, mi she'ein biyado kach v'kach, you can't get into Gan Eden unless you have done this, and that. And he gets pushed back into this world. It would have been better for this soul to go to Gehenna with all the embarrassment that Gehenna has for that soul and burning in fire. But then after the person will be purified. V'ta'ala el pnei hamelech, and he will be able then to go and present himself before the face of the king. Galgul palm shenis, and he will ultimately wind up coming there, and he will not have to go back a second time. Because he says like this, there's a concept here of forgiveness that comes from the Yetzer Hara. It causes a person to forget la'adam al ma'bo, what is coming. In other words, by the way that he's behaving, what's going to be the ultimate end. V'yitrach od shvim shana, and so that person will have to come back another 70 years into this world. Ve'im betuach b'pachad yisurim, and it's really not for sure. B'pachad yisurim, that the person really will have the fear of the punishment that's coming. Ve'im kain b'li safek, so therefore you really don't know what you're getting into in this life and what you have to do. Onish Gilgul Godol Onish Gehenim, that it turns out that being a Gilgul, this is the position of the Zohar, the Rebbe Shimon, that the Gilgul is harder than hell. This is Baruch Fleischman. Tikkun Elevator Kollel.